Alright, Northfolk Southern Locomotive Engineer Training Handbook. Um, Preparing locomotives for service. The objective of this lesson is to instruct the locomotive engineer trainee to play for the unit the service of the taking locomotive units out of service, the tying up and then outlining the points where the no mechanical forces are maintained. As a complete score for the training, will be able to perform the following to follow the safety and satisfaction for the instructor in the lab and the practice track. Make a visual inspection locomotive at the ground level to successfully check the fuel, water, oil, and locomotive unit. Make a visual inspection overall condition of each of the locomotive. Complete the ME60, ME65 form. Start the locomotive units. Name the describe the purpose necessary for the hose connections between the locomotives. Couple necessary electrical cables between locomotives. You correctly, safely change the operating end of the locomotives. Equipped with the 26L brake equipment will be able to describe his actions in writing. Pair locomotive unit with the trailed and towed, idling dead, and secure locomotive with the layover the outlying points. In addition with performing these tasks, the shop track on the simulator, these trainees will be required to take a test on the subject with passing a score of 80 or more. Introduction. If we're going to tow a boat or trailer on a trip where you would check the gas or oil with the water, kick your tires, visually check the overall condition for the car as well as the coupling between the car and the trailer. As you would check the electrical connection, safety change, you would make similar checks on locomotive. For the locomotive builders, Northfolk Southern locomotives are built in two companies. They are the Electric Motor Division and General Motors Corporation and General Electric Corporation. Two-cycle, four-cycle diesel engines. The Electric Motor Division or two-cycle is known as the two-stroke cylinder. Fires each time the piston comes up. The General Electric engines are four-cycle or four-stroke. The cylinder fires every other time the piston comes up. A visual inspection from the ground. Anytime you require to operate the locomotive, you need to know its condition. Certain items must be inspected at the ground level. Look for evidence of hot, cracked wheels, flat spots on the wheels. Note any unusual worn brake shoes. Check the brake pipe piston treble. It should be 2.5 to 6.5 inches. If it's in doubt, subtract 1.5 inch from the box 10 blue card. Check the brake ring with excessive fuel and lube oil leak for the object for the rail under the locomotive. There shouldn't be anything closer than 2.5 inches from the top of the rail, except for the rubber sand boots and wheels. If the fuel is out of sight on the fuel sight glass gauge reads low, any of the unit with it consists to notify the proper authority. 2. The engine room inspection. Inspecting the engine room can be made with a glance for each eye for the diesel engine. Inspection should be looked for with the oil on the floor's condition for the exhaust stack, obvious weak water leaks, the general condition for the engine cover, the rotating parts for the airbox cover, the crankcase cover that must be in pace. Top deck cover to the valve covers must be closing latch. 1. The check oil water. The lube oil checked with the dipstick, which is usually located about the middle of the engine near the floor. The location should be marked on the car body. Some engines have the dipstick on both sides of the crankcase, only one side. The oil level should be checked on before and after starting the engine, and the water is checked by using a sight glass located in the expansion tank. On each unit locomotive, the glass should be full before starting the engine and should be full at the engine running mark after the engine is started. The governor oil. On engines with governor, sight glass for the governor should always be checked before and after starting the engine. It should have oil visible before starting and be half full when the engine is running. Too much oil for the governor can be as bad as not enough. Some locomotives have engine protection devices such as low oil crankcase pressure switch, engine overspeed low water button located inside the engine room with other resets for the device, and they're automatic manually by computer. If locomotives equipped with a manual reset, the method may be checked to make sure that they are not tripped before the starting of the engine. Starting engine. If you get the locomotive in the shop, they'll probably be running with them going on duty. The outlying points for the location other than the shop, you may have to start with the engine temperature above 40 degrees. Generators. There are some other things we'll be talking about during the class that we should discuss. That this time, locomotive unit will either an AC or DC electric power. The AC alternating current systems used with many of the Electric Motor Division and GE locomotives on the locomotive units. The direct current systems are used on older electric motor diesel units. Locomotive electrical panels. At this time, they identify 3 panels of Electric Motor Division units: fuse and breaker panel. The new units have only circuit breakers and a 400 amp starting fuse. Older units equipped with the fuse and the circuit breakers. Engine control panel. The panel could include switches such as traction motor cutouts, headlight control switches, control breakers, emergency fuel stop button, isolation switch. The panel is located above the fuse and breaker panel. Engineer's control stand. There's several types of the control stands. The most common are the AR standard type with the separate levers for the throttle and the dynamic brake. The older electric motor diesels use only one handle for both the throttle and the dynamic brake. The handle function is determined at another level known as the selector. On the desktop, the units of the control and display sense screens are in the front of the engineer instead of on the side. To the side, all units have a reverse handle. Starting electric motor diesel locomotive. The power and cranking engine furnished from the 64-volt battery pack or 8 volt batteries. The proper procedure for the start of the electric motor division engine follows. The throttle should be off the reserve centered and remove the selector often so it's equipped before starting the lead any of the unit. Any fuse of the brake panel to close the main brake switch. Install 400 ampere starting fuse to close with all the amper brakes in the air with the brake panel on. The turbocharged engine of the turbo loop oil pump breaker located on the metal cover that must be in the open on position at the engine control panel. Place the isolation switch to start and the engine control stand close with the control and fuel pump switch. The engine will not rotate until all this has been done. If the engine cold is not equipped with the automatic engine purge, rotate the engine by pumping the starter until the engine has been turned at least 2 revolutions before closing the fuel pump breaker. Place the engine in the switch for the fuel prime position. Hold for the 20 to 30 seconds. The prime start switch will be in the engine room. After the engine has been primed, hold the start switch in the start position. DC engines use the main engine generator for starter and will not overheat when starting. If the DC engine does not restart with a reasonable amount of time, hold the delay shaft in about 1/3 of the travel to give the engine some fuel to help start it. Except for on the 80 Mac EMD AC engines will have the prime start switch on the engine room. After priming, the push of the delay shaft, if equipped with 1/3 travel, if so follow, fuel can flow from the cylinders to turn the prime start switch of the start position. Rotate the engine. If the engine does not start with the 20 seconds, release the start switch to keep from burning up the starter motors. Electric motor division AC traction alternators engines have 2 starter motors similar to the automobile starter, only larger with a rotating engine. The starters are easily overheated. Some AC units are equipped with a starter thermal overload protector that cuts off the power when it starts. Automatically the starter gets hot. The device is built with the start switch and red light will come on the switch if the overload device trips. If the overload device trips, always allow 2 minutes to start to cool until the red light goes out before the cranking of the engine. Thermal overload device will automatically reset. Light will go out when the starting motors have cooled sufficiently. The procedure for starting with the trailing unit is the same except for the control and the fuel pump switch does not have to be on the trailing units of the circuit is supplied through the jumper cable to the lead unit. Starting a electric diesel's SD80 Mac locomotive. The SD80 Mac locomotives are equipped with the 2 electrical, 2 air operated starters for both types. The starters will crank the engine independently should one of the system fail. Failure either system can be overcome by using the ice screen to check the status on the both systems, selecting the non-faulted system of the engine, starting the 80 psi main reservoir pressure, 60 psi at the air assisted starter mode is required before they will operate. The default starting mode is a combination of electrical air start. Starting the SD80 Mac is much of the same as starting with the other electric motor divisions. Electric motor diesel locomotives with the only few differences. After the inspection previously mentioned, you are ready to move the locomotive cab and initiate the start process. At lower control console, make sure the control fuel pump switch is on or up. The engine running generator field breakers should be in the off down. On the number 1 circuit breaker panels, all breakers in the black area are up closed and verify the ground relay cutoff switch is closed. Other breakers are up. The need include engine control breaker which supplies the power to the EMDEC system. At the engine of the controller panel, the parking brake is applied if needed to secure the locomotive. The isolation switch is in the start-stop isolate position. On the number 2 circuit breaker panel, all the breakers in the black area are closed and the EMDEC fuel injection switch is in run. On the battery switch, the test panel, auxiliary generator switch, and the battery switch are closed. The starting fuse should be correctly rated and installed. Note the starting fuse compartment is located on the conductor side just below the underframe and above the fuel tank. Electrical control cabinet and specialized must be closed securely during the locomotive operation. B. If the EM2000 control computer now controls the starting sequence to initiate the starting, engineer simply pushes the start button on the engine control panel and the locomotive cab. The button need not to be held continuously because the EM2000 will Now attempt to start the engine after the start button is pushed with the turbo loop. Oil will operate with a 2 minute fuel pump. Will run with 60 seconds after until sufficient fuel pressure is obtained onto the sequence initiated message of the fuel prime cycle. With the progress pressure, the engine stop to suspend will be displayed on the EM2000 or combined main menu screen. At the same time, an alarm will sound in the engine room for 5 seconds to warn the personnel of the impending start. Should they need to abort starting process, simply press the engine stop button. When the fuel pressure is sufficient for the message of the fuel prime complete, start engine will appear with electric starter motors will engage in a system for the air-operated motors required by the EM2000's computer will initiate process provided at least 80 psi main reserve pressure. If the batteries are weak and electric motors overheat, the engine can be started with the all-operated motors along with one that has adequate main reserve pressure by selecting air-only start mode with the EM2000 screen. Should an engine fail to start, the computer will abort and start. The appropriate fault message will be displayed on the ICE screen. The starting General Electric motive engines. The Dash 8, Dash 9 motors is motorized with the traction alternator to crank the diesel engine. Unlike the EMD AC locomotive using starter motors of starting the system out, and any of the GE locomotives is capable of starting the engine without overheating. The Dash 8 is equipped with the lay shaft. Although necessary to use the lay shaft when starting, it will start quicker if you push it about one-third travel. Using the engine control panel, the fuse breaker panel is combined with the General Electric unit. The isolation is called the engine control switch on the GE unit, starting in the Dash 8 and Dash 9 locomotives. Alright, start the engine consists of the being from the lead unit. Close the main barrier switch. Check the DID, IFD panels for any fault message. General field and engine run switch on the control stand should be turned off in down position. Turn all circuit breakers except for the running lights. Turn on all circuit breakers except for the running lights. Close the LEB computer remote multiple unit circuit breaker for the engine control panel. Place the engine control panel and switch in the start position. Prime the engine. Place the prime start switch in the start position. There will be a 2-4-second delay when the locomotive fails to start. Check the DID panel for fault indications. Note, because the Dash 8 is equipped with a lay shaft, pushing one-third travel will cause the engine to start quicker, but before closing the starting station door, be sure the lubrication pressure show on the lubricating oil pressure gauge. Alright, the L240 calendar day inspection and locomotive trip reports. Calendar day inspection. Each locomotive is in use shall be inspected at least once during each of the calendar day. Inspection forms ME65 shall be maintained on each locomotive indicating the location, date, and time. Each of the inspection engineers when taking the charge of the locomotive must determine their inspection has been made examining the form M2E65 inspection record of each locomotive. Though every locomotive must be inspected sometime during the calendar day it is being used. The person who is doing the inspection writes the location and the time of the inspection, appropriate pre-printed date, line on the current month over the ME65 form on each locomotive, and then considers that there are holders on each of the locomotive of the form. Whenever the engine or the RCO hostler takes charge of the locomotive consists he or she must check the ME65 form on each of the locomotives to check for the latest calendar day inspection has been done. Alright, this shows the date, month, the locomotive number, and the same inspected location. When the calendar day inspection is not in date, the mechanical forces are not assigned to do any inspection. Engineers will inspect the locomotives. At the time of the inspection is performed, they will complete one written report of the inspection using a Section A on Form MCE60. The report shall contain all locomotive initial numbers and consists of the location of the date and time of the inspection, description of non-compliant conditions disclosed by the inspection. The report is completed and signed by the engineer of the other employee making the inspection. Non-compliant conditions noted shall be prepared before locomotives used. A notation shall be made with the report indicating the nature of the repairs employee making the repairs shall also sign the report of the designated space. Section B on the form ME60 may be at the end of the trip of the report as described in item 2. Note that the ME65 shall form indicate if the locomotive has not been inspected for the calendar day. Mechanical forces are not assigned to do the locomotive inspection at the location. Engineer, RCO, or hostler must do the inspection. Completing of the inspection on all locomotives consists of the requiring inspection complete from the top of the portion Section A of the ME60 form. Only one form is needed for up to 6 locomotives in the consist. If you have more than 6 locomotives need more space to note non-compliant conditions, additional forms can be used. Remember to fill the top portion of each additional form. Section B, the same with the MC60, may be used at the end of the trip report. If you have not compliant conditions such as successful locomotive brakes on travel with inoperative handbrakes, notify the proper authority of the condition so the non-compliant condition can be repaired or safeguarded before the locomotive is used. Information regarding the proper authority of the contact will designate the division or manager of mechanical operations will normally be published by the division superintendent notes If the contact information is not available for your area or you are unable to reach the person designated in the notice, contact the yard master, train master, and the train dispatcher. Form ME65. Fill the appropriate line with the current date with the form is located and operated by the cab. Each locomotive consists note of the time and location of the inspection. Note after an inspection each locomotive unit fill in the time inspected and location appropriate date line with the ME65 from each of the locomotive top portion, locomotive date and time and inspection, locomotive initials, number of the case, number of the consist, section 8 calendar day, inspection result, non-compliant conditions. Section B, locomotive trip report. Locomotive trip report. After the completion of each trip of the tour duty, engineer will report on the Section B form 60 ME60 with the condition locomotive consists, starting briefly on the part, but clearly any defects noted, supplies and use needed, and missing diagnostic computer defects, messages including time, mile post locations, diagnostic defects, and defects rest on or not. Insurance making the calendar day inspection of the Section A of the Form ME60 may use the Section B on the same form at the end of the trip report with the same with the consist of the engine taking charge of the locomotive on which the calendar day inspection has already been made and noted in the Form SC655 should be new within the Form ME60 with the locomotive trip of the report noted the locomotive consists of the initials and number at the top of the form completing only with the Section B and signing the appropriate blank. Handling the ME60 ME65 forms after completion of the trip of the tour duty, engineer must outline the location of the mechanical department forces are not on duty properly mailed in fact the Form ME60 for the location designated for the division manager of mechanical operations. Note these locations normally include the outlying yards and location when mechanical forces are not employed. Location of the mechanical department are maintained plate for the completed the Form ME60 designated receptacle with a registered off point. Note these locations include yard terminals where mechanical forces are employed. All delivering locomotive to the mechanical locomotive servicing facility locomotive complete with the ME60 designated holder on the lead locomotive. Note these locations including the engine house locomotive fueling facility Chattanooga, Roanoke, Conway, Bellevue, and Enola. Except when the locomotives are brought with a mechanical form, the Form ME60 containing unsolved defects with the Section A and B should be properly faxed and located and designated with the division manager of mechanical operations at the conclusion of the engineer's on-duty period in the order that the repairs can be made. No locomotives brought in a mechanical locomotive servicing facility with the engine house fuel facilities will leave with the ME60 and the designated hole in the lead locomotive. Any other location if the unresolved defects or Section A and B with the ME60 must be faxed to the location designated by the DMMO of the superintendent's notice. Unless relieved under the hours of service, the law directed to provide to the property prescribed in item 3.1c, the engineers must not leave the ME60 report on the locomotive. No, do not leave the ME60 on the locomotive unit. So you deliver the locomotive and mechanical locomotive servicing facilities such as engine house or fueling facility. You relieve under the hours of service laws. You are directed to do so. The proper authorities such as the transportation department officer, yard master, train master, road foreman, train dispatcher, mechanical department official. To move a locomotive, after all the units of the locomotive considered that has been started, there are some things that must be done before attempting to move it. First, turn on any breakers in the fuse of the brake panel that are not on at this time, such as the radio breaker, safe device, auxiliary lights, headlight, etc. Each occupied control locomotive in the train must have the operable radio department initial terminal, provide a leaving on-duty point, and determine if the horn on lead unit is working properly. Under no condition will any of the horns be cut out with the control unit. The engineer must not leave the terminal with the speed indicator on the control unit with inoperative, but unless authorized by proper authority, a control locomotive unit must not be operated faster than 20 miles an hour unless equipped with the operative speed indicator of the place isolation engine control switch to the run position. This will allow the engine to respond to the controls. Locomotive must not be moved without determination of the brake supply will release properly. Never attempt to move the locomotive unit until all the gauge reads follows. Or your main reserve gauge should read at 105 pounds or more. Some of the locomotive units require control air before they will move. Trying to move any unit of locomotive before the main reserve, the charge of 105 pounds could result in some of the units not being moved, otherwise not being able to stop. Equalizing reservoir gauge should read the feed valve setting at 75, 90, and 100 within the automatic brake handle release position. Brake pipe reduction gauge should read the same as the equalizing reservoir at the automatic brake handle and release position. Brake cylinder gauge should remain the same as the pressure stencil on the wall and console with the independent brake valve fully applied. You should be able to cause the pressure to release without apply with moving the independent brake valve. Never move the locomotive unless you know that the brake pistons can be controlled by the independent brake handle on the lead unit. If the engineer's control stand place the generator field on the switch on position. If it is not done, this unit will not load any open throttle. If the engine control stand speed, play for the engine run will switch for the up and on position. Engine speed will never go above the idle if this is not done. Equip with the old styles ratchet type selector. Move the selector lever to the power. Place the reverser in the desired direction with the generator will load when the throttle is open with the reverser in the center of the engine will speed up, but the generator will not load. Before coupling the train, the engineer taking the charge for the locomotive, the control unit, which is equipped with a crew call, and the crew alerted the locomotive safety control device must know that the device is operating properly. The following check may be used to determine if it is operative. Without operating, reset the switch. Gradually move the independent brake toward the release position until the warning whistle alerts and sounds. The PC light should light and penalty service brake pipe reduction should start. An independent brake and the full application server position resets the PC. Recover the penalty brake application. When ready to proceed and release all the brakes, most important thing, the handbrake. If you do not do this, a wheel could slide when you move the locomotive. Open the throttle, locomotive should move. Coupling multiple unit consists. The multiple unit consists sometimes of the reliability of the engineer to be sure for the coupled correctly. Coupling together with the duty of the engineer. Anytime the two units are coupled together, the first step and thing should be to do the stretch of the coupling to be sure of the made. The walkaway should always be down. Walkway should always be down. Fasten the safety chains. Install the 27-pin jumper cable to make sure that the cable is securely under the walkway where they can't get into the knuckle. Couple the air hose between the units. The four air hoses to be coupled between each unit of the brake pipe. Main reserve actuating and apply and release. All hoses are coupled and straight through. In other words, do not cross them. All coupled hoses of the inside out is starting the brake pipe. Main reserve. The coupled and main reserve. All units to provide large volume of the air supply to the brake. Actuating hose. Allows any of the locomotive brake cylinder to be applied as the result of the automatic brake application to be bailed off the independent brake valve. Apply and release the hose. The independent application release for the hose allows the locomotive brake to be applied release on all position operating with the independent brake valve on the lead unit. After coupling the hose, open the cutout cocks on each of the units to allow the air to flow through the hoses. All cutout cocks will be lined across the pipe when cut in. Angle cuts of the brake pipe will be lined parallel when cut in. Last things to be done with the cutout with the generator field, engine running control, fuel pump switches on the trailing units. You are now ready for the locomotive brake test. Locomotive brake test. Anytime the locomotive consists of the trains, any one of the more locomotives should consist uncoupling and coupling of the multiple unit hose chain for the control stand with the brakes being tested before proceeding. The proper procedure for the brake test is as follows. Secure the locomotive ready for the independent brake. Observe the brake release on each of the locomotives and consider for the two people available. The one person must operate with the brakes and the other look at the brake cylinder. Next step is the 25-pound application automatic brake valve. This should be covered with the brake applied with all the units to ensure the brake pipe is coupled at the L angle. Cocks can cut properly when the independent brake handle bail off the pressure. This is applied with the automatic brake. The brake should release. The more make a further brake pipe reduction. Reapply with the locomotive brakes. The automatic brake handle will have to be moved in the second service zone. To do this, check to see that the brakes have applied. Release the automatic brake. The brake pipe will be restored to normal, and the brakes should be released. Apply with the independent brake. If the brake applied with the release, then apply with the brakes for the independent brake. Apply with the release for the brakes and automatic brake and the bailed off with the automatic brake application and independent brake handle. To assure you that all the hoses are open and cut out cocks and cut in and the brakes are working properly. Or your single-employee locomotive brake test procedure. There may be occasion when the necessary to make a locomotive brake test, and there will be not a second person available to observe the brake applied when the release. This procedure will allow the one person to complete the locomotive brake test. At least one hand brake will be applied during the test. Make sure the automatic brake handle is released position fully applied with the independent brake. All observe the brakes are applied on each locomotive. Check the independent release placing the automatic brake handle in the suppression position. Prevent the alerter from setting the brake while you are on the ground. Wait for the brake pipe's exhaust to stop the releasing the bail. Independent brake fully apply the full release for the independent brake. Observe the brakes are released on each locomotive. If the brakes are released, you can now bail off them. Release the independent brake. Move the automatic brake handle into the over reduction zone until the cylinder pressure develops and gauge. The observer the brakes are applied on each locomotive. Release the automatic brake valve. Wait for the brake cylinder pressure to reduce to zero. Cut out the automatic brake valve. Place the automatic brake handle in the suppression position. Observe the brakes are released on all locomotives. Apply after reapplying the brakes. Release the handbrake running test. Engineers will make a running test of the automatic independent brake valves and dynamic if equipped as soon as the speed conditions is permanent. Changing operating end of the locomotive equipped with the 2/6L brakes. At any time we operate with the multiple unit consist, we may be required to change the operating end such as before, making the extent of the makeup of the movements within light with locomotives to other reverse movements to the possible responsibility of the engineer. Apply a handbrake on the unit you are cutting out before leaving it and going to another unit, unless for the coupled cars are with the air and handbrake applied. When changing, there are three things we must do to each of the brake valve: apply it, cut it out, and place the handle in proper position. The following procedure must be followed with changing operating end of the locomotive. These instructions apply to locomotives equipped with a 2/6L brake equipment. Locomotive units being cut out with the release selector level, plus the selector level. Place the selector level in the opposition A or standard control stand that do not have the selector. Place the reverse handle in the neutral and lock the A or standard control stands. Have the instruction posted in the cab to remove the reverse handle. When so posted, reverse the handle must be removed. The brake must move automatic brake valve handle to the service position. Make a full service brake application. After the brake pipe exhaust stops, place the cut valve in the out position. Place the automatic brake valve handle in off position. Place the independent handle. Apply independent brake valve handle to the full application. Remove the multiple unit valve in the desired trail position. Place the independent brake valve handle fully release position and bail off. Make sure the brake cylinder pressure does not drop. Insert when where provided. Place the control fuel pump switch, engine run starting general fuel switch in the opposition 10, and place the headlight switch in the opposition. Turn the headlight selector which shows the appropriate position. Turn the ditch light breaker to the open and off position. Place the isolation engine control switch in the desired position. Locomotives used being cut in. Place the control and fuel pump switch in the on. Leave the reverse handle in neutral position. When the reverse handle has been removed, the A or standard control stand, the reverse handle must be replaced by the neutral in the left in the neutral position. Making certain throttle lever in the idle selector level in the off, the A or standard control stands do not have the selector. Apply independent brake valve handle the full application. Use the multiple unit valve in the lead out position. Remove the pin and automatic brake valve handle in the place and the release position. Place the cutout valve in the front or freight or in position. Place the generator field engine run switch on position. Turn the headlights and ditch lights on. Place the engine and engine control switch into the run position. Alright, changing operating ends of the locomotive equipped with electronic equipment. Lead into trails to set up with electronic brake equipment for the trailing position. Play for the handle switch to the operator with the integrated display key with the following sequence. Place the dynamic brake handle in the opposition. Place the reverse handle in neutral. Remove it when possible. But automatic brake valve handle in full service position. And brake valve in the full application position. Press integrated displays keys as follows: the air brake setup, the chain setup, lead and trail cut out, independent with the automatic brakes. Press the save setup and do it and confirm. Remove the automatic brake valve handle, the handle off position. Move the independent brake valve handle to the release position. Note the brake pipe pressure handle holds it and press the exit key to return the function menu. Place the control and the fuel pump switch, engine run switch, and the generator field switch off position. Alright, trail lead. To set up electronic equipment for the lead position with the place handle switch operated with the integrated display for the key to the following sequence. Place the control fuel pumps and the switch on position. Leave the place with the reverser level to neutral position. Make certain throttle to the idle automatic. Apply the independent brake valve in the full application and place the automatic brake valve in the release position. Press the integrated displays to follow the air brake setup, change up, setup, lead and trail units to cut out an independent brake with a save setup and to do it and conform with the equalizing reservoir, chain setup, cut in, cut out, for cut in, cut the automatic brake valve setup, save and setup, and do it confirm. Equalizing reservoir pressure must be adjusted. Press the chain setup, the feed valve setup, up and down areas to adjust the pressure settings, save set, do it and confirm. Place the engine running in the generator field on the on position. Or setting up the locomotive units to be towed with the train running. When it refers to being towed with the in-train, would mean if only the brake pipe is connected between the units. Units may be towed on the head end unit consisting only through the brake pipe couple. Units may also be towed on the head end consisting with a multiple unit hose couple. The air brake for the units will be set with the trailing units. Place the throttle idle center of the reverser. Place the selector in the opposition. Remove the reverser. Cut the engine and the running generator field switches out. Leave the control fuel pump switch cut in. Keep the engine running. If the engine control panel, play for the isolation switch in the isolation position. Make the full service of reduction with the automatic brake pipe. This full pipe with locomotive brakes is resolved with the brake pipe reduction cut on the double heading cock. Place the automatic brake valve handle in the handle off position. Independent brake valve must be left with the cut in. The independent brake valve release position do not bail off. If the independent brake is cut out, brakes will apply and may not release. Cut out all light breakers and radio breakers. Setting up the locomotive unit to be towed and train dead. Following the same procedure you would follow in towing of the train until you have the engine running, except the cut out all switching breakers except the main battery switch speed recorder with safety devices. All on older units do not cut out in the automatic train control or the overspeed breakers. Also, when towing a dead locomotive dead with the only brake connection, you must drain the main reserve of 25 pounds or less, cut in the dead end fixture, which is located under the floor of the feature left of the main reserve to be partially charged with the brake pipe enough for the locomotive brake to work when the automatic brake is applied. If this is not done, the unit may be towed will not have brakes. Instruction for the towing of locomotives down the head of the end of the train. The number of locomotives handled with the head of the train must be limited because of the amount of the locomotive brake cylinder pressure developed in the emergency brake application for the independent brake. To make pressure could come out of the train, the jackknife. The section refers to the unit that is set up at the trailing unit. Not part of the work consists with some of the multiple unit hoses connected. The following procedure for the applicable the 3/6 axle locomotives on the up to four axles are handled in tow on the head end of the train. Connect the multiple unit jumper cable between all units. Connect the main reserve hose and apply the release of the hose actuating hose between all units. The following procedure will apply for all 4 or more 6-axle locomotives. 5 or more 4 axles are handled to tow on the head of the train. Connect the multiple unit jumper cables between all units. Connect the main reservoir hose and apply the release on the hose actuating hose between all 3 6-axle locomotives for the head 4-axle locomotives in towing. Connect the main reserve hose and the actuating hose only for the units access for 3 6-axle locomotives, 4-axle locomotives in tow. Consider all locomotives and 6 axles when towing. Make sure for the 4-axle and 6-axle locomotives only the SW1500 and SW1001. The MP1580 DC unit may be towed and consider the trail and consider the head of the train. Fuel conservation procedures. When locomotive will be left on the line with the road with the relieving point where the temperature is not anticipated to drop below 28 degrees Fahrenheit, shut the locomotive down. When the locomotive will be left out laying a point for 12 hours or more above 32 degrees, shut the locomotive down. Less than 12 hours above 28 degrees, shut the locomotive down. When locomotives are left at the engine terminals, yard set on the line road will be utilized within 30 minutes. The locomotive may be left running in the isolated draining locomotives. When the diesel engine shut down, danger freezing is present. The engineer must contact the dispatcher once to determine the locomotive cooling system must be drained. The engineer must use the MO or mechanical operation center for the draining the instruction. Securing a locomotive for layover. The locomotive units are set outline of the road light up for the overnight locals work trains. All work should be shut down unless they notified and otherwise temperature permitting. Procedure for the shutting locomotive as follows. Test the handbrake secure apply both automatic and brake valve fully and throttle idle. Center the reverser selector to off, remove the reverser when possible. Shut off the generator, fuel, engine run switch. Leave the control and fuel pump switch on until the engines are shut down. If the ending of the control fuel pump switch is off and the engine stop button will not work on any of the unit, place the isolation switch in the isolation position the EMD units and start with the GE units. Push the engine stop button until the engine shuts down. Always shut the engine down with the manner unless there is an emergency. Do not use the emergency stop position on the throttle unless there is an emergency. When shutting down the locomotive, the module control circuit breaker must be left on in units of 4606, 4641, 6550 to 6700, 7101, 77150. They're equipped with an electrical control computer. Open all the breakers of the fuse breaker or panel except for the turbo loop oil pump breaker. Open the battery switch on the Northfolk Southern unit except exempt from those listed in the L236 and the Northfolk Southern 1. Never under any circumstance will the engineer open and ground relay cut switch. Never open the battery switch or the control breakers on the lead unit until all the trains have been shut down. Note the Northfolk Southern Rule L236. After all the units have been shut down, open the control fuel pump switch on the lead unit. Always shut the units down farther from the rear to the front. Always start units from front to rear. Close all the windows and doors. Set the handbrake on each of the consists. Alright, securing a locomotive unit with a layover idling. Apply the handbrake on all locomotives. Secure the test fully. Apply both automatic and independent brake. Always leave both for the automatic and independent brake. Cut in the automatic brake must be in the left in the full surface position. Throttle and idle. Reverse center. Selector off. Remove the reverser if possible. Generator field. Engine running off. Place the isolator switch in isolation position. All breakers in the black area in the panel speed record safety applying for the ATC and cab signal OS breakers must be left in closed position. Close all the windows and doors. Also rule the L236 and the Northfolk Southern 1 approximately extremely cold weather. Our study guide questions: what would you feel like when making a visual inspection of the locomotive with a ground level? What would you look for when making the visual inspection engine room with the locomotive? How do you check the lube oil with the engine and locomotive? How much water usually show over the water glass of the engine is shut down? What would you do about the oil water when the engine started? By looking at the sight glass for the governor, how can you determine the level of the oil is sufficient for the operation of the diesel when furnishing the power for the starting the engine locomotive unit? And in the question above, which switch must be closed to make sure that the power is available? What switch of the engine control panel must be proper positioned for the engine to rotate? And what would happen if the starting engine with the control of fuel pump switch is left off? Describe what action you would take just before turning on the fuel pump when starting a cold engine. When engine starts with located with the engine room, what must you do to help to start the engine? Before attempting to make a move of the locomotive, there must be sufficient air pressure in the brake system. Following gauges to read main reserve equalizing pressure wire, make brake pipe, brake cylinder pressure. When coupled locomotive units equipped with a 26L or 30 brakes, the air hose must be coupled with the air hose. The 26L or 30 brake equipment provides bailing with the brake cylinder pressure applied with the result of the brake pipe reduction. What would be the result of not cutting the dead engine feature for the towing of the dead locomotive unit? What should you do first with the after coupling that consists of the locomotive on the trailing locomotive? Where should the handle for the brake valves be placed automatic independent with the position with the double heading cock on the lead unit with the locomotive and the position with the trailing units? Describe how you would make the brake test with the consist of locomotives and units until just coupled. On trailing unit with the 26L equipment, should the independent brake valve be cut in or cut out? When the towing locomotive, where would you place the isolation switch? What are the three switches which always be open with the engine gunner control staying in trailing units? What are the towing locomotives? Should the independent brake valve be cut in and cut out? 25. In your words, describe how you would change the engine of the locomotive equipped with the 26L brakes. And 26. Describe how you would shut down the locomotive with a layover. In general electric units, what device would you use in starting the motors? C39D, D940C. All others. What would result with the general electric unit with the fuel pump where non-reset prior to the attempting to start with the engine? How often must the locomotive calendar day be inspected? How often does the locomotive work report be completed? Locomotive consists. Then notes, and there should be more notes, and then more notes. Type of locomotives operated by the Northfolk Southern.